All right, welcome to part three of the Iran series. Um, Probably the most difficult one we've had so far because when I was going over the Iran Iraq war, it was easier to just recall the various details and circumstances that had happened. And here I actually had to assemble a list of information and just kind of put one part next to the other one. So you're going to probably be able to tell that there's a bit of a shift in terms of what all was available, but I wanted to keep the consistency of having this overflowing timeline. So let's review what's happened. 79, we have the Iranian Revolution, and after this, the form of government they've had for over 2,000 years is thrown out. 2 years into the new reign of their new leader, Ruhollah Khomeini, the Iranians enter a war with Iraq, which is initiated by Iraq invading Iran under the rule of Saddam Hussein. Now, this war goes on for pretty much the entire decade of the 1980s, and it is, costly. Hundreds of thousands of lives are lost on both sides. There's attempts at peace treaties and arms this, and they fall through year after year. Um, no clear winner, so already there are 10 years of material. But in the immediate year after the war's conclusion, the Iranian supreme leader, Ruhollah Khomeini, becomes ill and dies. On his deathbed, is able to arrange for the process that gets his successor into power, which was Ali Khamenei, or is Ali Khamenei, because he's still, at the time of this stream, in a position of power, or in that same position. He's actually one of the longest serving heads of state ever, with 30 years going on next year, or rather 30 years in a few months on June 4th. But, he, at the time of his appointment, is the president of Iran. And, we're going to discuss the entire tenure of his immediate successor, Akbar Rafsanjani, and also his successor, Mohammad Khatmi. But we'll go into this stuff. So one of the overarching themes of Iran in the 90s is that they have a secular, their citizens adopt Western cultures. So, secular behavior and admiration for the West. And it's oftentimes said that because they have this domineering Islamic government, this is their own little small way of rebelling by the powers that be. So in 91, we have the Gulf War begin. And, Iraq invades Kuwait, and Iran tries to play a neutral role. It notably adopts Iraqi refugees. Remember, this is only a few years removed from the Iran-Iraq War. So leadership at that time says, you know what, that country pissed us off, or Iraq's leadership pissed us off, but the actual people that lived there, we're not going to punish them for that. It's likely the mindset that was displayed at that point. So that is the entirety of their involvement in that war, because they're not sending any troops. Um, Also, that year, the Worker Communist Party of Iran is founded, and it is the direct result of the previous Communist Party basically combusting. They dropped themselves and decide to quit. A good chunk of its members, anyway, the Communist Party of Iran, that dissolves. And its leader for the first 10 years is a man named Mansur Hekmat, and he died in 2002. So he's leader for this whole decade. But their objective is to overthrow the Islamic Republic, so the one that's been in power since '79, and establish a socialist republic in its place. And they're still trying. What is it? 27 years later, still seeking to do that. But That's one of the other significant events of 91 I was able to find. In 92, the Iranian legislative election is held in April of that year, and the right wing Combatant Clergy Association wins over 70% of the vote, which gives them a majority. And this is notable because in the 88 election, the previous election, wiped out, or rather, they didn't get anywhere near this. This is a complete turnover from the success they had the previous time, which was not a success. They were not able to capture a majority, let alone a landslide, as they were here. So the minds of people in those 4 years shift very significantly. It actually reminds me of the 2010 House of Representatives election, where you had the Republican Party pick up 60, I believe 63, 62 seats in the House. And this was the best they had done since World War II. And this is literally 2 years removed from the Democrats winning the presidential election. So, one side seems to be on top for a few years, the other side comes into power. But that was the thing that caught me off guard, just how large of a victory this is. So the following year, two Iranian aircrafts, or rather, two aircrafts hit each other next to the Iranian capital city of Tehran, and this results in the death of all 133 people on both of the aircrafts. In '94, President Bill Clinton, U.S. president, the 42nd one, refers to Iran and Libya as rogue states during an address to future European leaders in Brussels. This is the first time an American president has used the term rogue state, which, if you look at the US's place right now with pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal and literally being the only country to have entered it and then pull out, and then everyone else is still in there, and we're the only ones that aren't. It's ironic when you think about the predicament of today. So in '95, or rather the following year, the Iran newspaper launches. It's a daily official paper for the Iranian government and has been owned and published by the Islamic Republic news agency since its inception. And 2 years later, Mohammad Khatami is elected the fifth president of Iran. And Khatami's tenure is seen as moving Iran from the confrontations it had with Western countries and other regions in favor of having dialogues and discussions. And this is really amplified, or rather exemplified, by the instant I'm going to describe here. So in August of '98, this is a year after he takes office, referring to Khatami, the siege of the Iranian consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif, which is in Afghanistan at that point, being Taliban controlled, takes place. Now, initially, they say people die. They find out there are two other diplomats and a journalist. Khatami keeps Iran from a war with the Taliban through leading Iran through negotiations with them to release captive Iranian diplomats. This is after having Iranian troops show up, and he basically vetoes the idea of having a conflict with them, meets with the UN. So this is someone who, as it pertains to the Taliban, said, I can go to war, but let's not do that right now. The following year, you have the Iranian student protest in July, so in July of 1999, where a peaceful protest initially took place in Tehran as a form of protesting the closure of Salam, which is a newspaper. And a dormitory was raided later in the first night of the 6-night protest by officers, during which a student was killed. And this is followed by 6 days of demonstrations and rioting. Over 70 students disappear, and over 1,000 individuals are detained. This is the worst, this is the most violent and widespread public protest to take place in Iran since the Iranian Revolution. And then later that year, Khatami presents a plan for economic reconstruction via the creation of 750,000 new jobs each year, along with some other proposals. That reminded me of a common myth we have in the US where a lot of times politicians will tout the creation of jobs as some indicator of how great things are, how much better things are, and then not take into account the quality of the jobs, such as the wages, the benefits, whether you even are able to take any vacations. That's what that reminded me of, and that's not a dig at him, but just the way it was phrased in that the synopsis I gave. So this is a period that is not consumed by a decade long war, um, and has two presidents that I can't find much to suggest they've really moved the needle on changing anything, as far as just, oh my God, we have to cover this person. So if anyone has anything else to say or has anything to say, let me know. If not, I will end this. I will say that the reason this feels a lot simpler is because we don't have a large scale conflict that again results in the deaths of thousands of people, and you have to go and name all the different operations. So that contributed to this week's entries length. But hopefully, at the start of during next week, we could probably do the 2000s. And I know that the prime minister they had um, following Khatmi is quite a character. So thank you for watching and have a good day.